In this video, we are going to be looking at some cards coming to the game. This has come out a little while ago. I had not had a chance to cover it, so I want to give some of my thoughts. Maybe you haven't seen these, maybe you're curious on my thoughts. Either way, think about sticking around. I'd love to hear from you what you think of these cards. Comment below. If you make it a couple minutes in the video, consider giving a hammer of the like button because that does help the algo.
Bring me Wolverthor!
We're not going to go over the January cards. I mean, obviously, this is pretty much done, so it's kind of like, all right, is what it is. February. Now, we've talked about February. We've had these in spotlight highlights before. We have them in the graphic. The weird thing for my Snap.fan friends out there, almost did Snap.friends fans. Weird. For some reason, the season card shows up the month after too, so ignore that when you see it. The first one that we've got on here, Black Swan, it's going to be a 2/3 on reveal until the end of next turn. Your one cost cards cost 0, so it's pretty nice to be able to get one cost cards out there pretty cheap if you're a big one cost player. This could be something for zoo decks. With Kyera out there, I think that could be a good, huge miracle turn late. You might see Sandman or even Leech potentially coming with stuff like that. Depends, but the truth is that I think Leech can't make a one cost card not cost 0. Mobius will be a big counter to this. Is this going to be a card that necessarily like shakes up the meta? I mean, certainly chances for Zoo to do well, consistently often get, infinite tickets, win infinite borders. I don't know. My gut tells me no, but it's a season pass card. I think the season pass is worth it regardless of how good or bad the card is. My gut tells me that this card isn't going to be necessarily the greatest, but if you're going to be playing this card, you absolutely have to have Kyera out there. You might even want to consider having a Cosmo so that Kyera cannot get Enchantress if you lean that much into it, but then things start getting really clunky, so we'll see. So yeah, I think it's a solid season pass card, but not anything that's, you're going to write home about. All right, next up, Super Giant. We've talked about this. It's a 4/5. All cards played until the next turn don't reveal until the end of the game, until the game ends. That's sort of huge. So it's like all cards played next turn don't reveal to the game end. So if you play this, that means that the next turn, you better hope it's fine that those cards stay there. Now, this could be great for you is the hide cards. It might screw over your opponent a little bit where they might need an on reveal, but they'll know that when this gets played, that it's going to be a problem for them. So the next turn, they've got to think through that going, all right, what cards can I play that won't matter? I could see all this causing problems for any cards you want to draw, etc. Or anything that you need to build. I mean, destroy, for example. I could see Super Giant really messing with destroy. It's like, well, I really need to destroy something next turn. I wanted, to crunch up my X-23. I needed to get my Deadpool back to get another double, whatever it might be. So that could be a huge, huge deal. I do think this is going to be a powerful card. I think a lot of people want to have it. The 4 cost, I mean, really, it's either going to be your turn 4 cards or your turn 5 cards, because the only reason you can have it to be a turn 4 is because you get Zabu to get it to come out early. I still think this is going to be a really good card. I get a little worried about the clunkiness of it, and anybody who's pretty talented, I think, will be able to play around it decently, unless they've got one of the aforementioned decks and anything that really needs to on reveal pretty much every turn to be able to properly execute what they need. All right, Call Obsidian. This one got changed a little bit, and this is a Series 4. The other one's Series 5. It's now 4/9. You can only play this where you have a one-cost card. I like this when it was a little bit more of a, I think it was a one-cost stone at one point, and I also like that it couldn't be destroyed. I don't know. I mean, I think this card's, I think Series 4 is decent for it. I think most people are not going to get that unless they use their tokens. Corvus Glaive, Series 5, discard. It's going to be a discard archetype, probably only on reveal. Discard 2 cards from your hand to get +1 max energy. I think this is great, but similar to why Hellcow can be a little bit problematic, I could see where Corvus Glaive could be like, well, man, please don't hit the wrong card. Please don't hit the wrong card. That worries me a little bit. Proxima Midnight, when this is discarded, jumps to your lowest power location that isn't full. You really want Corvus Glaive to always discard Proxima Midnight. These are going to go hand in hand for sure for discard type players. I think that it could work, but I get a little nervous with those because you do need a lot of points with discard to compete. So I think they're solid spotlights. Super Giant Darkhawk Zabu, I think it's a great week. This week's a little weak with Call Obsidian, Nimrod, Thanos. I think unless you don't have Thanos, you're probably not pulling spotlights this week. So just use the tokens on Call Obsidian. Corvus Glaive, X23 Gladiator. It's not a bad week. X23 has been around a lot, but it's not the strongest of weeks, mainly because Corvus is, like I said, pretty niche. And then same thing with Proxima Midnight. I think MODOK's been around for a long time. Same thing with Doc and sort of not really doing much at the moment. So I don't think that's the greatest of weeks, but you know, if you're really a discard player, that's where you're gonna pull. So now let's get to the meat and potatoes of the video here. Let's go to March. So again, like I mentioned, they have Black Swan again. I don't know why. Season Pass card is actually Hope Summers. After you play a card here, you get +2 energy next turn. So this is a 3/3. Now, that tells me that this is the type of thing where you want to be able to actually play on this every single turn. This card seems broken AF. Like every turn I would play on this, and it being a 3/3, like, okay, it doesn't seem to be ongoing, so they can't take it away. I mean, you could destroy it at some point with Lady Duststrike, I guess, but unless you're pulling out Lady Duststrike early, I mean, you're going to play a card on this every single turn. So on 4, you're going to play it down. So that means 5, you'll get 7. On 6, you'll get 8. That's really good. I like that a lot. I feel like this could fit in a lot of decks. Now, it does come at the point where it's turn 3 plays, and you're not going to get it sooner than that. So, you know, it's a critical juncture of the game. But even on turn 3 playing this, if you can, play it on the curve. Man, I don't even mind playing this on turn 4. Turn 5, I mean, I assume, so on turn, and we'll see, after you play a card here, you get +2 energy extra. So on turn 4, you can lay this down, then play a 1, means you can get the energy on 5. Or on turn 5, if you lay it down and play another card there, means on 6, you can still get. So I think if it works like that, everybody's going to want this card. It seems insanely good. Next up, we've got Pixie. Now, this is the first I've seen of these, including the Hope Summers one. So you're going to get my raw first hot take of these cards. So Pixie, Series 5, the 1/3. On reveal, shuffle the cost of all cards in your deck. Wow. On reveal. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Man, I'm torn on this. Like, I like this because then if somebody Dark Hawks you, meaning they're getting the Korgs, they're getting the Rock Slides, maybe one of those 1-cost cards go to one of your 6-cost cards. That'd be pretty insane. So it's a nice counter to the Darkhawk type decks, but there is some RNG on this where, you know, you might need a critical card to cost 1 or 2, and then you drop a 6 on it instead, and you finally draw it, and it's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I needed that card. So I'm going to be curious to see the sort of decks people cook up with this. I think there could be some really creative decks with this. I like the card at its face value. I have to say I'm a little surprised at Series 5, but this is a hot take. I need to think through the decks that might come along with this. And I say that based on the RNG. So we'll see what sort of broken decks we can come up with. Let me know what decks you think in the comments below for Pixie. Where is she going to fit in well? I think of Thanos a little bit. You have the stones and you do a lot of high cost cards. And that's where it plays out real nice. Where it's like, look, I just have a bunch of 6s. So they're either swapping with 6s or you're getting a 1 on the 6. That's huge. You play that with Scar. All of a sudden, Scar, you're playing like 3 10+ power cards late. That could be broken big time. So maybe that's why it is a Series 5. So I do like that. All right, Data Mine Series 5 for Mockingbird. The 5/9 costs 1 less for each card you have in play that didn't start in your deck. Interesting. Okay, so costs 1 less for each card you play that didn't start in your deck. So this seems like a location card. Or, you know, you're using your mirages type things. You're using things that cables, you're taking cards from your opponent, your mantises, and then you get to play them. So I really think this is not a turn 5 card. You're only going to be playing this card if you're able to pull those cards and play those cards. Loki, I could love Zabu Lokiing into this. Holy cow. But then you have to draw this after you Loki, right? So but if you do, it's a gigantic play. And this doesn't have a minimum. This can be free. So if all of a sudden you're playing a bunch of cheap Loki cards and all of a sudden you draw this late, that's a 0/9. Are you kidding me? That's insane. So, but again, I think you need a lot to get that to be lined up. So we'll see. I mean, because the Loki thing by itself, I don't know. All right, so next up we've got Cannonball, a 5/8. On reveal, move an enemy card away from here and add a rock where it was. If it can't move, destroy it to add the rock. Wow. Wow. This could be a huge card. I like this card. This is fun. I like this with just general move. I like this with destroy. I like this with junk. This just seems fun. It's an interesting card. I think it's going to have some interesting applications. Is it going to break metas? No. But I think it will be interesting to see played in certain locations. So I like this. I mean, when somebody's got certain cards there, I like this play on like a lockjaw lane that maybe somebody's got filled up with big cards. You know, you play this, you play a Shang late. If it doesn't destroy all the big ones, that's pretty nice. And it drops a rock there, so it's not like they can replay it. That's where I'm seeing this card get played, is on lanes that are likely full. But I like that. That's kind of a fun. It's a little bit different. All right, last but not least, we got War Machine. 4/6, so the Zabu comes into play. On reveal, until the end of next turn, nothing can stop you from playing cards anywhere. Holy cow. Wow. Okay. That's sort of insane. I mean, you can, like I said, Zabu, you play this on storm lanes, lockdown lanes, Professor X. I mean, lore-wise, this is super weird, but I mean, because this is like it's like a Jeff card for your other cards. You know what I mean? Playing this at the right time is going to be critical. I would say snapping early before playing this against a lockdown player is going to be absolutely huge. This is a gigantic lockdown counter. I absolutely love it. It can get cheap with Zabu. I'd find ways to play with that. I think it could be super, super fun. You could trick a lot of opponents into thinking you can't play somewhere, and then War Machine will allow you to play that. This is going to likely be a must-have card just for tech type reasons. I think it's going to be really, really good. I would highly recommend getting that. So let's look at the spotlights before we get out of here. Again, appreciate you making this far. Consider hammering down and commenting below. We got Pixie, Mobius, Spider-Ham together. We were a little torn on Pixie, but Mobius is a great card. Spider-Ham's fallen off, but still pretty solid. Mockingbird is going to come along with Miss Marvel and Man-Thing. You know, Mockingbird, like I mentioned before, you got to get some things lined up. Miss Marvel's still solid. Man-Thing's sort of not really relevant at the moment. Cannonball with Kitty Pryde and Ghost Spider. I mean, you know, I don't know. I think Kitty Pryde and Ghost Spider aren't going to make you draw anymore from this week with Cannonball. You either want Cannonball or you don't. I don't think these two cards are going to draw really anybody in. And then the War Machine week, you got Silk and Silver Samurai. I mean, I'm definitely drawn for War Machine, and I'm a little sick of getting Silk cards, honestly, from Spotlights. I've got 2 Silk Spotlights myself. I don't want a third. I don't even play Silk that much, and to have 3 Spotlights of the same card that you don't really play does feel pretty bad. So at some point, I hope Second Dinner gets a little bit better about that, and maybe after like the 3rd spotlight you pull of a card, they give you the option like, hey, you can trade this spotlight for another spotlight or something. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my butt right now, but something to think about. So look, I dig them. I like the cards. I think they're interesting. I mean, War Machine, huge, fun, interesting, potential big power. Same thing here with Pixie. And, you know, we talked about these. I think these are all generally solid, but very niche between these two. This one is just okay. And this one, I think, can really sort of wreak havoc. So appreciate you making this far in the video. Hammer down that like button, etc. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.